Erev Tov Chavrim, I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live, and gosh, guys, there is a lot going on today. We didn't broadcast yesterday. I'm just trying to recuperate. My poor brain has 100 different directions as it is. And as usual, I forgot to clean my glasses, so I can't see. And I see also that they're getting weaker. We're going to get into this two-state solution in just a few moments here. This is something that, we've been saying now for years, that a two-state solution has already been signed. We interviewed Siman Tov on Israeli News Live that he stated that Ariel Sharon signed it in a secret deal back years ago. And also we know that Joel Bainerman and Barry Chamish both have passed away since, but they talked about how that Shimon Peres was working on a secret two-state solution with Pope John Paul II and of course, Yasser Arafat, who's also since passed away. And there's been some speculation that Trump was talking about doing a regional move and possibly a one-state solution. And, of course, we didn't discount that's a possibility, but we know that these deals have been signed. How would that play into being? Now, I have never been for a two-state solution. And some of the Arabic friends that watch Israeli News Live might say, why would you not be for a two-state solution? Well, if you have one state and you have equality, you have a democracy to where the people have a right to be a part of the judicial process, and there would be a fairness with both Palestinian and Israeli citizens, equal laws, equal rights there, then you don't need a two-state solution. In fact, if anything, you'd be better protected as one state than you would be as two states. The women that are in the Palestinian areas, the West Bank and, of course, Gaza, which is often referred to as Judea and Samaria, of course, Gaza not being a part of that, but they would also have the liberties of freedom that many Israeli women have now. So there is an advantage to a one-state deal, and that's something that I've always considered that would be the best way. But of course, with the current government recently adding this Jewish state law, well, that pretty much throws that out the window. So a two-state deal is probably about the only thing that's going to happen. And again, we believe that the infrastructure was built based on a two-state solution. We're in it already. All right, let's just go ahead and go to this here. The Times of Israel, Trump to Netanyahu, I like a two-state solution, want peace in my first term. That's in this video right here that happened right after they met together. Let me turn the volume up on this. I want you to be able to hear this so that we can see what's actually said here.
Something that I guess was controversial, but it's turned out to be very positive in many ways.
Now he's talking right now about the moving of the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, how it's controversial. Netanyahu will kind of weigh in on this in just a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of move towards the end of this to save time so that you can hear President Trump's final comments where he actually for the first time addresses a two-state solution. Listen to this.
Security, prosperity, and peace with Israel's neighbors and for the region. And we can do it with you.
Are you going to say something about
I like two-state solution. Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think works best. I don't even have to speak to anybody. That's my feeling. Now, you may have a different feeling. I don't think so, but I think two-state solution works best. Yes. Go ahead.
I think a two-state solution works best, says to the Prime Minister. You may have a different feeling, but I don't think so. Makes you really wonder what's going on, and then also what is part of Netanyahu's peace plan. I know there are those that have said that President Trump was not going to actually have a two-state solution in his peace plan. But if he's talking about it now, well, maybe there's something wrong there. Can't say as I say for sure. It is something worth looking at, and we will follow this as we go. Also, the Israeli defense chief says the Palestinian state doesn't interest him. He's not very happy about this idea. But he does state in here, and this is on the Chinese newspaper here, Israeli Defense Minister said Thursday a Palestinian state doesn't interest him, dismissing U.S. President Donald Trump's declaration of the two-state solution is the best solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. He says, I do not care about a Palestinian state, Avigdor Lieberman told reporters during a tour in northern Israel. According to Ynet News, I am interested in a secure Jewish state, he added. He attacked Israel's Palestinian Arab minority as disloyal to the state of Israel. There are 20% Arab citizens who demonstrate on every occasion holding Palestinian flags. This is the problem that needs to be solved, he said. On Wednesday, during joint remarks with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on the sideline of the UN General Assembly, Trump said he supports a two-state solution. It was the first time Trump has endorsed it. Netanyahu did not comment on Trump's statement, but later he held a briefing for journalists saying he would accept a self-ruling Palestinian authority, but only if Israel will retain the security control over that territory. So that may be where the concession lies at. And of course, Trump's two-state solution may lie in the fact that Israel can retain sovereignty over the border there on the Jordan River, whereas the Palestinians will be given self-autonomy. That's what I've kind of thought it was going to be in the first place with a two-state solution from the very beginning, but that just remains to be seen. We'll just have to see. I'm sure Trump has been under a major pressure by the Vatican, even though there is a lot of pressure by the Israeli government, but there's also the pressure that comes from Rome, and Rome is one also demanding a two-state solution. So that at least the city of Jerusalem comes under a United Nations control. And the only way it's going to come under United Nations control is if there's a conflict. That's what's going to drag it into that situation. And of course, they have thought all along by all these different violent attacks instigated by the Palestinians. Let me clarify that. It's not that the Palestinians instigate the conflict against Israel. It is outside influence from, I consider it to be, the Roman hierarchy that is instigating the Palestinians into conflict to bring about the intifadas, as was revealed by the late Joel Bainerman back in 1994. He also mentioned how Yasser Arafat then was to incite violence against the Israeli people. I've known many Palestinians and Israelis who have concurred with this information, that they were more relatively at peace with each other before the Intifada ever started, and no one never could really figure out why did it start in the first place. Well, we've shared enough information about how that goes, how that the Vatican has talked about there will be no peace in Jerusalem if the status quo is not taken care of under the late Louis Jean Thoron, Cardinal for the Vatican, and how that Hillary Clinton, only days later, was given a message by some of her people in leaked WikiLeaks emails there, stating to do something to stir up the problems with the Palestinians. So yeah, we know we have proof that that really does happen. All right, let's turn to the other issues here. There are major issues that are happening right now all over the globe. This is one that caught my attention actually a couple of days ago, even though of course, I did not see the article 2 days ago when Russia says here in TASS News, Russia won't tolerate U.S. biological experiment near its borders, warns a diplomat. But I had seen, and I'll go to this in just a minute, this article here, I had seen the video posted by Diliana on her Twitter page, and I can't pronounce her last name for the world of me, but let me play just a clip of this video for you. It's very, very serious video where this young lady actually confronts what she claims to be her CIA agents in the country of Georgia, just south of the Russian border there, not far from Armenia, coming into this lab here, and she interviews residents and everything that talk about their experimenting with chemical agents there. It is suspected that this could be a biological weapons manufacturing installation in Georgia. I want you to listen to what this young lady uncovers here.
The Lugar Center have also been given diplomatic immunity, including diplomatic vehicles, although they are not diplomats. This practice is often used by the CIA to provide cover for its agents.
Well, she stops this guy here.
You are here because we saw this car last day.
She asked him, why is he driving a diplomatic car if he's working at the Lugar Center? She says, you work here because we saw this car the last day and you are here again.
And you're here again, so you're working here.
So you are working here, she says.
From the U.S. Embassy?
Are you from the U.S. Embassy? He says, yes. And she says, what are you doing here at the Lugar Center? Are you a scientist? Well, he doesn't comment after that. But in subsequent videos that we have watched that she put out as well, she actually interviews residents around the area. They talk about these foul odors that are coming out. There's other issues that take place there. In fact, all you have to do is click on Diliana's website here, and if I remember right, because I remember clicking on this, I think, and this is where I got the extra information. Yes, you can get the longer version of the video, and when I went through it, this young lady does a very good job on this. Let me just kind of show you some of the information. Diplomatic viruses, they call it. This is a little documentary they've put together on this.
The Lugar Center is a Pentagon biolaboratory in Georgia's capital, Tbilisi. It's located just 17 kilometers from the U.S. Veziani military air base. The military biolaboratory is heavily guarded. All passers-by within a radius of 100 meters are being filmed, although the military biolaboratory is located in a residential area. Bulgarian journalist Diliana Kitiniera has been investigating the Pentagon biolaboratories in 25 countries around the world, one of which is the Lugar Center in Tbilisi. These U.S. biolaboratories are funded by the Defense Threat Reduction Agency under a $2.1 billion military program, known as the Cooperative Biological Engagement Program.
Now, I'll include this link as well. I forgot to include this when I was putting our news broadcast together, but I will include this also in the links below there. Now, of course, this is her Twitter page where she uploads the video, a clip of it there, and it's definitely worth watching this documentary. Now, as I stated, though, TASS also is speaking about this, and they state here, Russia won't let the Americans carry out biological experiments near its borders. Vladimir Yermakov, director of the Russian Foreign Ministry of Non-Proliferation of Arms Control's Department, told reporters on Tuesday the diplomat commented on a statement by Georgia's former state security minister, Igor Gilgadaz, earlier this month that he had evidence that the United States conducted secret experiments on humans in the Georgian laboratory. We told the Americans, that is, that we won't let your military biologists do something strange on the Russian border, Yermakov said. According to the Russian assessment, the U.S. military agency is working on Georgian territory with biological materials and using Georgian partners as guinea pigs, the diplomat said. Now, it seems like, though, that this is not just something that is falling on deaf ears, because I also received in my Twitter box here from Mikhail D. This particular video footage here of a massive Russian convoy right here, which I asked Michael D. because I don't know, we can't tell from the way the video is aimed here. Is this convoy that's sitting on the side of the road headed towards the north or headed towards the south? But it is a majorly long military convoy sitting here on the sides of the road there, and all types of equipment that were there. If we back up once again, now of course now you're coming down this side here, and they're sitting on the, I guess he turned the car around. I apologize. Yeah, that's exactly what he did. Turn the car around, going back the other direction, just to give us a bird's eye view of exactly what we're seeing. Armored personnel carriers, all types of military equipment that is headed in one direction or the other. But it's the city that this equipment is located at, and that's what I want to show you here on a map here. This is let me just back out just a little bit for you. All right, so we can see the country of Georgia is right here, and actually that base that they're talking about is right in this area as well. And this convoy is on a back road, 262, headed either south or north. And of course, if it's headed south, then it is Russia getting ready to put military equipment near the border of this particular country, Georgia there. Not to say that Russia hasn't done that in many times past, or to say that Russia doesn't do military drills as they've been conducting the Vostok drills here recently, but it just makes you wonder, why is there that type of troop movement? And also, we have on Amman News, breaking: Russia sends stern warning to Western nations preparing to strike Syria. Now, the article here on Amman News here actually goes into the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov sent a stern warning on Wednesday to Western states that are planning to strike Syria under far-fetched pretext. Now, where is he getting this from? Well, I did a little fact-checking here, and I noticed that a tweet actually went out on the U.S. Embassy in Syria today. And this is something that kind of seems to lean towards that. It's a joint statement on Syria. And this statement comes from the U.S. Embassy in Syria. The text of the following statement on Syria was released by the governments of Egypt, France, Germany, Jordan, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the United Kingdom, and the United States of America. All right, now I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so you can just get an idea of what's being stated here. We, the foreign ministers of Egypt, France, Germany, Jordan, and they name all the countries again, the following statement of support for the urgent convening of Constitutional Committee to advance the UN's efforts to achieve a political solution to the conflict in Syria on the basis of the UN Security Council Resolution 2254. Now, they go on in this talking about how the war has drug on for over 7 years. But what was interesting was a deadline was set on a new constitution. And they're also talking about that the Syrians that are displaced around the world should have a right to vote as well. And that needs to be done by October 31st. I'm sure this is what Russia is really concerned about, is that the deadline on something like this may be that after the deadline is passed, perhaps these nations are planning on taking actions into their own hands and launching an attack on this nation to force it to take a constitutional change that they see more desirable. I can't say that with 100% certainty, but I am very much concerned that this could be the very direction that they go into. And after all, how in the world could you actually have a fair election with Syrians abroad? Who could really trust a voting system like that with so many displaced people? I think what they should do is have their elections within the country with those that have remained in the country. Because after all, many of the Syrian population was enticed out to Europe under the pretense that they would have a lot of money and plenty of women in Europe. Now, that was from very detailed information we had gotten on the ground in Europe by people that we know there that had interviewed some of the Syrian refugees that were coming in, so many of them especially without wives. Why they left their families back home? Why were they there as single men? Why is it such a mass exodus of men only coming into Europe? These were the stories that we were being told from friends of ours over in the Netherlands, in Germany, etc., that had interviewed Syrian refugees that were coming into Europe. It was a promise of free money, women, and that they were invited to Europe. This is why so many of them made the trek. Now, I don't say that all of them came with that intention. I'm sure many of them are displaced, no doubt, from a war that had the United States and their allies stopped backing all these terrorists, this war would have ended long, long ago. So even though I love my people, the Israeli people, when Prime Minister Netanyahu says about the downing of the Il-20 Russian aircraft recently that it was the fault of Syria, Hezbollah, and the Iranians that are inside the country, I would disagree. Because the Iranians would not have been in Syria had my people, Israel, come to the aid of the Syrian government to defeat ISIS and worked with Russia from the very beginning. But no, we can't have that, according to Tzipi Livni, who is a previous foreign minister of Israel. We can't have that. That's absurd to think that the Israelis would actually help the Syrians. After all, my own people seem to forget that the mothers of Israel, Rebecca, Leah, Zilpah, and what is it? I forget the last mother that we had there for the 12 tribes of Israel, all were Syrians. Every one of them from the country of Syria. That means we have a lot of relatives living over there. Not to mention a lot of the house of Israel was dispersed into Syria as well. What a shame. What a shame that we would completely abandon our mother's heritage. Why have we done this? Bela, by the way, was the name of the fourth mother of the tribes of Israel. And of course, Asenath, she's Egyptian. So think about it. We have neighbors on two sides. We have Asenath, who is the mother of Ephraim and Manasseh, which I am from the tribe of Ephraim. We have from the country of Syria, Rachel, Leah, Bela, and Zilpah, the mothers of the other 10 tribes of Israel. These are our families. And although I don't agree with the policies of some different religious ideas, I don't agree with the policies of Egyptian theology, things of this nature here, nor the Syrian theology, but yet it's still our kindred. It would seem to be a lot easier to make peace with those that are of your own household than it would be to go at war with them continually. Makes me wonder who's really in power in our country. Are they really Jews? Did they forget about the covenant that our forefather Jacob made with Laban? Has that been totally trampled underfoot, the policy with Laban? You know, after all, Laban did say, if you ever take any other wives other than my daughters, he said, then God judge between me and you. Even though we be apart, God be the judge between the two of us. Sorry about that. So, you know, think about it. God be the judge. Now the thing is, Israel has taken other wives. Ahab broke that first by bringing in a Zidonian, Jezebel, into our country, not marrying in. I mean, Israel, the children of Israel had very much right to be able to marry in amongst our own people. And we could have gone back to Syria as well and married in amongst Laban's children as well. This is what Abraham said for us to do. That's your family. So why are we attacking the family? Maybe this has a lot to do with I'll turn the daughter against the mother and the mother against the daughter and things like that we hear about in the scripture. Maybe I should teach on this tomorrow. Probably a great Shabbat message. I have to do it here on Israeli News Live, but it's all right. Anyway, let's kind of conclude on with this broadcast here, getting into some other issues here that are going on. Besides this as well, we have on Fort Russ, they're reporting here. Hang on. I always hate this when this happens here. They're talking about Israel, a Russian senator of Moscow can put a no-fly zone targeted at Israel over Syria. This came out, published on September the 24th. Russia could take steps to prevent the airstrikes with Israeli aircraft in the future. With the resources to shut down the Syrian skies, Russian Senator Franz Klintsevek said on Sunday. Earlier today, the Russian Ministry of Defense blamed Israel for overthrowing of the IL-20 plane in Syria. I'm sure that would really meet with some heavy resistance with Israel and the United States, but that is still yet an option. And there's one other bit of information, two other things here I still want to share with you. I'll go to that one in just a moment. This is another big issue, too, that was brought out on Fort Russ's news article right here. Ukraine Army needs 18,000 able-bodied pieces of cannon fodder, as Fort Russ actually is calling them. The Ukrainian government is effectively enacting the draft, the conscript. They are now requiring 18,000 men to be drafted into the military, and funds have been provided to do exactly that. That kind of tells me Ukraine is getting ready for a ground war. And of course, that means Russia will be sending more troops to the border of Ukraine as well. So as I'm watching what's going on, we see what's happening on the border of Georgia. As I shared with you earlier there, right there, Michael D's broadcast there, they're sending down a bunch of troops there to the Georgian border over chemical facility the U.S. has on that border there. We've already been talking about here earlier this week how the United States is considering building a base in Poland. They've already started the construction of a base inside of Ukraine. I mean, the U.S. is really loading up some military bases on the border of Russia, breaking every agreement that the four presidents here have made in the past with the Russian Federation. It's a very troubling time that we're living in right now. And then, of course, we have Pentagon officials push back against Bolton's Syria war talk because Bolton is constantly talking about rattling the chains of war over there. But even Pentagon officials are a little bit shy about wanting to do that. And then last but not least, we're also dealing with a situation, too, where Russia, British media were frightened because of the video shooting the complex Bastion missiles there. They were having a drill up there in the Arctic Circle there. But as Russia said, there's some very valuable minerals up underneath that particular reef there. And this is what the Russian government is doing these war tests there to be able to protect what they have. And so it's certainly making the British government and other governments very nervous. It's kind of interesting how their missile system works there. They take off and the rocket system literally changes the direction of that missile, and then it fires it straight into a direction that it needs to go. I think we got war looming right near close by. I certainly hope not, guys. I hate the idea of war. That's the loss of life for a lot of people, and we just don't want to see anything like that happen. Anyway, I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. We've got a weekend coming up for you here. Going to be doing different broadcasts. Be on patreon.com/Israeli News Live. We'll be doing our teaching message on Danun Institute. We'll have our Shabbat live broadcast, more news coverage as the weekend goes by. So it will be a very eventful weekend. And we trust that you will join us here on Israeli News Live as we gear up for this weekend starting tomorrow. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. Erev Tov.